Hello, planet Earth. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. You've reached IDK, my BFF Jill, 730. I'm Preston Young, and today we're doing another Buffy review. So, a couple weeks ago, I kind of went off about season 10, number 8 here, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because I claimed that it is not a good starting point for new readers. And I still kind of stand by that, but we will move on with a better issue this month. So, this month on Buffy of House Tyrell. Yeah. See, all of this flowery ivy stuff, and then, here's Spike. He's all up in the issue. Xander is mentioned in the issue, at least. And Dawn is neither seen nor mentioned. So, I don't know what this cover has to do with anything at all going on in this issue, but, growing strong, I guess. Growing strong. So this month on Buffy of House Tyrell, we pick back up with our Scoobies who are down at the Hellmouth. Spike, Willow, and Buffy are following Andrew down there because Andrew is trying to resurrect Tara McClay, we find out. So, there is this soul-consuming demon down at the Hellmouth who is feeding on the souls of party people who are partying because it's Halloween. And they've convened at the crater that was the Hellmouth to do their Halloween partying. I'd be there. And so the soul-consuming demon is there. Buffy and Spike and Willow had just come upon it. Giles, Xander, and Dawn are all back in San Francisco for their respective reasons. And that's pretty much where we are. Willow went after Andrew, found out that he wasn't trying to resurrect Warren and is in fact trying to resurrect someone else, but who she hasn't discovered yet. And so we open up on Buffy and Spike, and Buffy had sent Willow to go after Andrew while they fought off the soul-consuming demon, who then describes himself as the Soul Glutton. So the Soul Glutton is getting bigger and bigger, and Buffy and Spike are not having any luck overcoming him, and he says that it's because he is receiving pure soul energy from a dimension that's made up of pure soul energy. He says that someone is coming through from another dimension into ours, and that the dimension they're coming from is so just soaked, made up of pure soul energy, that he's feeding on this, and it's making him enormous and strong. So Spike thinks that it's strange that he would be getting so big off of pure soul energy from some heavenly dimension, because Warren shouldn't have gone to a heavenly dimension. So he's confused by this, but Buffy is convinced that Willow will stop whatever it is. So we pick up with Willow, and she's down at Warren's grave, and he has a grave because his family had apparently they buried the sack of skin that Willow had left behind when she killed Warren. So she kicks the grave, tells herself to put her Angela Lansbury hat on, and I really liked that. It made me think of Magic, she wrote, and she figures out that Andrew wouldn't be resurrecting Warren because Andrew knows enough by now to know that Warren is just bad news. And so she kind of has this oh my goddess moment, because she knows that Jonathan's DNA Andrew already has, and nobody knows where Andrew's body was buried because Principal Wood found him in the basement after Andrew had murdered him. So we don't even know where Jonathan's body is buried in the first place, but Andrew has his DNA anyway. And so she has this oh my goddess moment and kind of understands what's going on. And so Buffy lures the Soul Glutton into a trap because by saying that the Slayer who had defeated him and murdered his family in the past probably thought that they were calamari because they're so tentacly, and she's probably just feeling a bit peckish. And so he's angered by this, and he falls into Buffy's trap. He kind of chases her and falls into this great big pit within the crater of Sunnydale. And so she uses this time to call Giles, who's in San Francisco, and he's been doing research on this calamari glutton demon. And he says that there was an ancient slayer from the Aztec culture who had destroyed this demon and his family some time ago by using a magic sword that has now been destroyed. But her scythe has enough magic in it to probably do it. and she tells Giles about why he's getting so big. And Giles is concerned about this, and he tells her that if the soul glutton guy is going to, if he were to consume a soul that's fresh from a pure heaven dimension, then he would become essentially unstoppable. And so she needs to stop him before that happens. And so Spike is worried that if the calamari soul glutton consumes his soul, then he will turn evil. And Buffy says that's not what's going to happen because, you weren't too evil when you didn't have a soul. And he says, no, I was pretty evil, and I didn't love you, I was not a good person, etc., etc. And she says, no, your goodness goes pretty well beyond your soul, and you did some good things for me, and you were a pretty good guy even without your soul. And so they have this nice little sweet moment, which is then interrupted by the calamari glutton, and they keep having no luck because he keeps on growing. And so Andrew is at Tara's grave, and he's trying to figure out exactly the right phrasing to put into the vampire book so that Tara's resurrection will be successful and pleasant for everyone involved. And so he has his Siri program to recite the spell for him via his iPhone, and his Siri's program to call him Your Grace. And so he has it recite the spell while he tries to figure out exactly how to write this down in the book. And Willow enters, and she says, you can't do this. Don't think I don't think about this all the time, because I do. Every time she comes across a new magical artifact, every time she learns something new about this raw magic she's working with now, she thinks about this a lot. I could bring back Tara, but she chooses not to, because even though she has her best chance right now with magic being all raw and the rules not really being able to establish, she doesn't do it. And she tells Andrew that she can't allow him to do this, blasts magic at him, despite the fact that she says that she appreciates his best intentions. And so she blasts this magic at him, but it rebounds off of the book and hits Willow. And so she begs him to stop, but he is saying that he can finally make up for all the stuff that he did wrong. And she is saying, this is not the way to do it. And he says, well, you brought Buffy back. And she said, yeah, and Buffy was miserable. And she was only there over the summer. And Tara's been dead for near about 4 years. Can you imagine how traumatic that would be for her? And this goes back to what I was saying in my last Buffy review about how just because the rules of magic have changed doesn't mean the rules of Buffy have changed. Like, we don't bring people back from the dead all willy-nilly, because it's not just about the person who's died. It's about the people who live on. We go through this process of mourning and grieving and being without them. And what's the point of going through all that as a person if you're just going to rob yourself of that experience and to make someone's life your plaything, essentially? And so Willow says that this would be selfish and cruel and hurtful to someone that she loves. And she says, I won't let you do this. And Andrew says, you cannot stop me. So we go back to Buffy and Spike, and they're having even less luck fighting the calamari demon. It ensnares Spike and is going to consume his soul. And so Buffy comes along with her scythe and slashes him free, but then the calamari glutton traps them both, and they're both screwed. So Andrew tells Willow that she doesn't understand where he's coming from, because she doesn't understand what it's like to feel alone. Because even though she brought Buffy back from the dead, and yeah, it was a mess for a while, everything's fine now, everybody's happy, Buffy's okay. And even though Angel killed Giles, he brought him back even when there was no magic to do so, supposedly. And now everybody's just hunky-dory that Giles is back. And also, Xander, who betrayed Buffy and everybody to Simone and the Siphon in last season's end, he's all forgiven, and he's back in the Scooby Club. But because of what he has done, because of Andrew's past, rather, because he was involved essentially in Tara's death, he feels like they don't trust him, that he can't enter that inner circle of Scoobies, and that they'll never trust him, and that this is his one moment to really make it happen, to redeem himself. And so Willow is like, I'm sorry if I didn't make you feel like a Scooby, if we all made you feel like you were left out, but this is not the way you can fix your past. Not like this. You can't do this to me, and you can't do this to Tara. And so he finally understands exactly where Willow's coming from, in that we don't just bring people back from the dead all willy-nilly. We just don't. And so he tells the Siri to terminate the spell, and they cry, and Andrew apologizes, and Willow is basically like, everything is going to be okay. So the calamari demon stops growing and is kind of discombobulated by the fact that Andrew's resurrection spell has ended and its food source has essentially been cut off. And so he is really discombobulated, and Buffy uses this moment to use her scythe to pierce him in the head and destroy him. And so Spike and Buffy escape him as he's like falling, but as he's falling, he's making the crater of the Hellmouth even more cratery, and it's all imploding some more. So Buffy and Spike are trying to escape, and they're not going to make it, but they got to try, and so they jump, and Willow just comes out of nowhere with Andrew, and she catches them with magic, and she's like, trick or treat, and Buffy's like, thanks, girl. And so all this good stuff, they're flying out of the crater, and Willow says something about how the old hometown's not looking so good anymore, and Buffy says, this is just a place. Home is where my peeps are. The rest is just the view. And I really like that. It says so much about coming home, because who you are when you come home isn't who you are when you left. And every time you come home, you're someone new. And that's essentially what Buffy says to Andrew. She tells him, you're not out of the club. You're not our cousin Oliver. You're Andrew. And if we've made you feel left out, I'm so sorry. But you can't just keep doing these great big gestures. Let's count Andrew's bad ideas and bad choices. Working with with Warren and Jonathan in the first place. Not listening to Jonathan when Jonathan was like, hey, Warren's fucking crazy. Killing Jonathan to open up the seal of Danzelthar. Still continuing to listen to the first after killing Jonathan didn't work, and trying to like slaughter animals and things to open up this damn seal. What else? There was Simone was his responsibility, and she became our big bad for season 9. Then, he in season 8 had created or reconfigured that extinct demon spider thing that almost killed Buffy, and they essentially had to leave with the rogue slayers and Simone, who was leading them, on the island that they just took over because they could. Yeah. And then, you're gonna put Buffy's consciousness into a robot body to protect her, and then her real body gets basically kidnapped and brainwashed by crazy Simone, who was your responsibility in the first place, Andrew. Yeah, this is all making a whole lot of sense. He has bad ideas, and basically Buffy is saying, you have all of these bad ideas that aren't really helping anybody. You need to stop trying to prove yourself and just be yourself. Just be Andrew. We'll trust you if you'll give us a reason to. And that's essentially like where we leave the crew. She says, you need to leave your past in the past, because that's where it should be. We're all different people now. When we were back here, yeah, stuff happened, and we don't forget it, and we learn from it, but we're not the same people. We aren't who we were when we were here. So leave that. Let it go. Let it go. And so back at Andrew's house, Andrew, by the way, I forgot he had made all this money. I was saying he lived in an apartment. No, he has a house, because he had found these different gizmos and gadgets that Warren had created between season 6 and 9 when he was all skinless. And Andrew has been patenting these and making a lot of money off of them. And so Andrew's got bank. And so he went back to his house, and he had Jonathan. Sorry, in my last review, I kept referring to Digital Jonathan as Andrew. My dumb. So he's got Digital Jonathan plugged back into his Google Glass or whatever, and he's talking to him, and he's saying, I learned my lesson. I can't just bring people back from the dead all willy-nilly. Would you like for me to make you a new body? And Jonathan says, yeah, can we make me taller? So we're on board. We're going to have maybe Jonathan back. Next month, we're supposed to get Harmony. That's pretty much where we are. I really liked this issue. I felt like it was, if this and this had been a double issue, then I feel like it would have been a good starting point for new readers. You would have had your Buffy fans who said, oh, this is a good point for me to get in. And they could have had some clue as to what was going on in season 9 and also a little bit of closure. Because if you just jumped in last week and it left you with the cliffhanger ending, you're probably just like, what? So that was my criticism. I do think that this is a very good issue, despite it looks more like Return to Westeros with Buffy of House Tyrell than it does Return to Sunnydale. And I still disagree that it should be called Return to Sunnydale. There's no Sunnydale. The series pilot is called Welcome to the Hellmouth. Call it Welcome Back to the Hellmouth or Return to the Hellmouth. Something. There's no Sunnydale. Sunnydale? No, it doesn't exist anymore. So, what else did I want to talk about? There are a few things that I wanted to bring up as far as what's going to happen with this. At one point during this issue, Buffy had offered Andrew one of the vacant apartments in her complex that she kind of acquiesced. And he said no, because apparently they still have a spare. And he's like, no, I like living in Oakland. And so I'm pretty sure that somebody is going to be moving into that vacant room. I don't know who. I'm interested to see what's going on with this Devon character. I racked my brain after issue number 7, and I cannot figure out who it is that that this Devon character is who shows up in the bar looking for Spike. Is she a Slayer? Is she a vampire? Is she something else? I don't know. I think that the reason that they're bringing Jonathan back to life, honestly, is because Danny Strong has come to such a prolific moment in his career. Last season he was on Girls. A few years ago he wrote that recount movie for HBO about Florida and the Florida recount. I want to say that he is one of the executive producers, writers on that new Fox show coming in January called Empire. I want to say I saw his name attached to that in one of the previews. And I recently heard that he is one of, if not the screenwriter for Mockingjay Part 1. So Danny Strong is really coming into a good point in his career. He was on Buffy for 7 seasons. So I think it would be really neat to have Jonathan back in a weird way. But is anybody else confused as to why or how we're going to bring Jonathan back from the dead? Like, this Google Glass situation isn't really Jonathan's soul. It's just his, memories. So I don't really understand that. So there's that. Also, where are all of the other Slayers? We're dealing with more Slayers over on Angel and Faith right now than we are in Buffy proper, which I think is really strange. You made all of these Slayers. I know you're trying to shrink the world down after seasons 8 and 9, but come on. Let's get with it. Where's Little Girl Slayer? You remember in the finale when the little girl was hitting the softball and she was a Slayer, and then, where's Little Girl Slayers? You would think that there would be Little Girl Slayers hanging out at school, doing things. Where's Grandma the Vampire Slayer? Let's say you missed your calling, okay? And you were in a nursing home chilling, and then when Willow cast her spell, you were like, Grandma the Vampire Slayer. Where are you at, Eunice? Where are Wolfram and Hart? I think they need to be back. Are they not back? Are they back? How are they not back? Last season on Buffy, she finally dealt with Wolfram and Hart when she went on her mission for Deep Scan, and Wolfram and Hart was exploiting this internet connection that was connecting them to our world since magic had been destroyed and they couldn't use magic to get into our world as previous. And so now that magic is back, why aren't they? And I'm sure that they are, and I would like to see them. It's probably going to be on Angel and Faith, but these are just questions that I've had. And where is Alwyn? The whole reason that Willow said she was all depressed at the end of season 8 was because she couldn't use magic to get back to Alwyn. And then in season 9, when Willow went on her own journey, she found Alwyn, but then Alwyn was like, well, let's hang out in this coven all day and just do magic. Let's play magic. And so Willow had to get out of there because they were all like, let's play magic, let's play magic. And she had to try and get home. And so, I don't know, is she still there? I don't know why we haven't gotten any of Alwyn. You would think that that would have been one of the first things that Willow did after, she planted the seed of wonder. Maybe talk to Alwyn about how this could all work. So, I don't know, you guys. It's getting good. This was very good. And the season's going pretty well so far. Aside from, like I said, the Spander fan fiction that was issue number 7, we're on a pretty good roll. I feel like things are starting to get normal again. And, check me out next time. I'll probably do Angel and Faith. I think it's going to be the end of the Lost and Found story arc this week. Or next week. So, you guys have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk later.